Hello, friends. It's your good boy Ari, Fit Pro VR. I hope you guys are having a lovely Saturday. Here in Philadelphia, it's like 26 degrees and not pleasant. But you know what? I still woke up and I still did my cold plunge at 26 degrees outside. I've been doing cold plunge lately, and we're gonna talk about this in a little bit. But I've been doing a cold plunge every morning, and my wife thinks I'm an insane person. Um, and I found that the cold plunge itself isn't terrible. It's the cold wind that hits you when you're stark naked coming out of the cold plunge. And trying to like put the lid back on it so bugs and stuff don't get inside the cold plunge. So I found that's the part that sucks the worst. It's not the like lead up to it. It's not even getting in the water itself. It's the wind afterwards. That's pretty terrible. And I started doing cold plunges, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And I got started on it because I started using, and I did a video on this a couple weeks ago, maybe months ago, on new apps I've been using for to kind of better my mental health. If you guys know, I did that Instagram thing where I'm doing the winter arc. And I'm like disappearing and doing all the like Coach Payne, David Goggins things where you like disappear and come back tougher and stronger and those kind of things. But I also deleted pretty much every social media so I could focus more. And I've been using probably like 4 apps to kind of help myself. Dissociates the wrong word. Dissociates what I do when I'm visiting my mother. It's I'm trying to think what's the word I'm looking for. Trying to like distance myself from social media and kind of the stupidity that comes with social media. And I felt like it was one of those things that every time I logged on, it was like digging its hooks deeper and deeper and deeper into me. And if things are going into me, I want approval. I believe consent is important. And I felt like while I was still kind of doing the social media stuff on my own, I had no control over what I was actually seeing. And I wasn't seeing the things I was following. Long story short, I started using an app called Mental. And it completely changed a lot for me. It changed my outlook on life. It changed how I like my daily routine. And then I added a few things after that because I just felt like this was a like a superpower I found. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like a person now. I'm not just like some phone zombie anymore. So um yeah, the Mental app has been kind of a life changer for me, and I say that knowing that you guys know that the CEO of Mental is sitting in the like behind the scenes part right now, and we're going to be talking, but I need to also let you guys know this isn't a sponsored video. It's not like something that was paid for. I was the one who bothered him to come on and do a live stream with me. I'm a nobody. I'm just kind of a YouTube nobody, and he was gracious enough to join me on this channel. Now the cool thing about Jason is he's got like a really good story. Sorry. He's got like a not a I hate saying like a really good story. That doesn't justify it. It's like he's got a really incredible journey because he not only was still is maybe is no longer a stand-up comedian. Just give me a nod if you're still a stand-up comedian. He's más o menos, you know, how Joe, you know, how a little bit still a stand-up comedian, which I respect the hell out of because there's no job. I don't know if you call it a job. Like there's nothing there's no amount of money you could pay me to be a stand-up comedian. I don't think. Like I can't that you have to really not like yourself and be okay with other people not liking you too. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring on the man that must hate himself more than I hate myself. Jason Kyle. Thank you, Jason, for coming on to Fit Pro VR.
Dude, I could talk for the rest of the hour just on that intro. I have so many things I want to discuss and comment on that intro. First of all, bro, in all seriousness,
Yeah,
this is awesome, man. This is a blast. Like I'm already having fun, dude. I
awesome.
appreciate you bringing me on. Um, one thing, a couple things I want to mention. you look, if your wife is starting to hate you for it, you're probably doing something right. The other thing is, I don't know if I think we all could have lived without you saying stark naked in the wind. You know what I mean?
It's
I don't know if
you
we
know what? The funny part is like I'm in Philly and we're all in row homes, so like I know for a fact the neighbors are looking down and seeing so many things they don't want to see. But I'm a new man and it's all thanks to you. I'm not afraid of to be nude anymore, and I thank you for that, sir.
well, look, dude, the last thing I want to say about that intro is you had mentioned yourself as a nobody, and I know you're kind of, just talking tongue in cheek, but
Yeah.
here's what I want to say is
Uh-oh.
that
I don't take
you
compliments well, so go ahead.
you're not a nobody, just
Mm,
like everyone who is using mental, everyone who is so active in our Discord, which you are, and I thank you for that, by the way. You're putting in the work, dude.
mm, mm,
You put in the work. Like, a lot of guys send me messages. I get a lot of messages from guys, from users from our app saying, thank you for this, thank you for
mm.
making me laugh, thank you for this content, thank you for making me look at things in a different way. And my response is always, dude, thank you for putting in the work. Like,
I
we just kind of built this platform, and
yeah.
but it's really up to you guys to use it.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about it is like if I stopped using it tomorrow and like lost my 100 and some odd day streak, my
Well, humble flex there, the 100 some odd days. I like just throwing that away.
just saying, I can't
Well,
do this emoji right now, but the girl this emoji right now, that's what I'm doing. Like I'm a streak based person. Like I don't even like using Duolingo anymore, but I still use it every day because I have like an 800 and some odd day streak. Um, but and I know in the grand scheme of things, if I lose a streak, it's okay. Things are going to be okay. Like the world will still turn whichever direction it turns currently. Not a mathematician, I can't tell you. Um, Everything's still going to be fine and I could jump back on the horse the next day, but I think the fact that it's created a routine for me and a lot of people has made it to where that it's no longer about the streak, it's about like how I feel after using it. And for those of you who don't know, the app has a lot of components to it, but the ones that I like the most are the daily deuce. So the daily deuce is where Jason, the man you see before me, is gives like a little 2 minute, I don't know what you call it, like a mini podcast. What do you call that? Like how can you explain the deuce to someone who's never heard of it?
I've explained it probably at least 20 to 30 different ways, which is not something you want to do for a product or a feature. You probably want to have some consistency with how you
Elevator pitch.
describe it.
What's the elevator pitch on it for an
You know,
investor?
what I used to say is that it's it's like a 2-minute morning masterclass to start your day, and think of it, the tone as, it's George Carlin meets Andrew Huberman, right? So we
Mm,
try to, I always try to use humor and storytelling with really, really, really good sound advice and science and things that are backed by research and giving you actionable tools. So, it's like, yeah, it's like what I also described as, what's the thing you need to hear today? Right. I
mm.
describe it as, what's your daily micro purpose? What's the one thing, if you heard one thing today and you just want to work on that one thing, what's the thing you need to hear to get you in the right mindset and you can keep going back to that day?
And you write these all yourself? It's not like is this something that, or do you have a team of people, or do you write these?
I would love to
Here
work
it
us up
goes.
to get to a team of people. It is 100%. I 100% research them myself, write them myself, edit them myself, record them myself, edit the recording myself, all the way up until I pass them off to Tyler, our CTO, to upload them into the app. So it is, it's it's a lot of work, but it's one of the most rewarding, purposeful things I've ever done in my life. So I mean,
Yeah. So like
I love
so
it.
okay, so knowing that it's not a team of factory workers in Taiwan who are making these for you, how do you distill like complex mental health insights? Because like it's not just like, hey, how's it going? This is Jason. Welcome to, it's not like that kind of thing. It's very insightful and it really tackles things that men are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So like how do you what's your thought process? How do you get it into 2.5 minutes every day? Like I have a hard time saying this question to you in less than 2 minutes. How do you get a complex mental health insight in 2 minutes? Like how do you do it?
A painful desire to get as close to perfection as possible.
Boy.
So there's that. And by the way, one other way I would just, and how I pretty much describe it now, and like to your point to what's the pitch to investors is a lot of times we'll call it like your daily mental health and performance tool. Right.
Okay.
So that's sort of a concise way to say it. But back to your question about how do I get it so sort of short and concise and try to add like storytelling elements and a little bit of humor is that this will sound incredibly trite and braggadocious.
Do
but
it, brag
let me
all
explain.
your
Let me
docious
explain.
right now. Yep.
We all have gifts. What I feel like I've been blessed with and I'm very grateful for is just a gift with words.
Mm.
And one of my mentors in that is, I'm not sure if you're, a big TV or film guy, but Aaron Sorkin, who I've heard describe.
The name's familiar, but I'd probably have to kind of see a face.
Aaron Sorkin did The West Wing, which I think is probably
on
TV. He really, really fast, snappy dialogue. He wrote the Steve Jobs film that I thought was fantastic.
But like no wasted time. It's like there's no wasted time. Yeah, I agree.
Now, if there is time or a breath or a pause, it's very, very specific and strategic and for a reason.
Agreed.
Right. And I'm sure you've noticed that already in listening to some of them where like you might get a long, long pause and it's like, wait, why is it pausing for so long? Oh, he wants me to think about that thing. I better think about that thing. And then you hit him with the deucer out. So for me, the rhythm, thinking about speaking in these little 2-minute things, even though it's not music, there is a musicality to it and a rhythm. And I always try to find that. I always try to find the sort of the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs. One of the greatest live stand-up performances I've ever seen, Ari, was from Tracy Morgan at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. And he came out and just like the first 20 minutes, just rapid fire, joke. Everyone was in stitches, dude. And then in the middle of the show, he brought his voice down, he brought the pacing down, and he started to talk about his father. And his old man leaving him and what it meant to him. And he sat down and there was just like silence. You could hear a pin drop, dude. We're hanging on every single one of his words. And then started to ramp the pace back up again and ended just with, again, having everybody in stitches. And I was always taken by that, dude. By that, can we get him laughing? Can we get him engaged with the storytelling? Can we, it's almost like a tickle punch, I know you said you're a consent guy. I know you said you're a consent guy.
I am.
I'm asking for consent
to anything yet. It depends.
I'm asking for consent to tickle and punch.
It depends where you're tickling and then where you're punching. But okay, I give you my consent.
So I like to find, and it's really hard to do. And I've been complimented about it, and I'm grateful, for those compliments around. Like I too have a hard time with compliments of like being able to use, things that are serious topics and drama mixed with humor and comedy and getting people to have a laugh. And it's very difficult to kind of blend those things. And the last thing I'll say about this is the braggadocious thing is that, you ever see Good Will Hunting?
Of course.
Where he's talking about, I think the lady Minnie Driver, or fuck, I forget her name, asked like, how are you so good in math? And I think, he says, look, I can't hit a ball out of Fenway Park. I can't play you like a masterpiece on the piano, but I could do this. So again, we're all kind of gifted with certain things. And like, look, I can't hit a ball out of Yankee Stadium. I can't, be a mathematician like him, but I'm pretty good with words. And I want to use that to help other people.
Yeah. And I think once people realize that everyone's like good at something, and whether or not they realize that, but they might just like, it might be something they do every day that other people realize that they don't realize, is that, hey, this person's really good at such and such. And it might like, some might not be as lofty as others. Like there could be janitors who are really, really good at waxing a floor and know exactly the angles to hit the waxer and all that stuff, or hit the buffer on it. And but that's nothing not to shake a stick at, because I've always respected people who are masters in their craft. When I used to do MMA, I had a coach who was like, he was a master at boxing, and he would beat the brakes off of me on a daily basis. And he was about 118 pounds. He was like 41 at the time. I was probably like 31. He was 10 years older than me. And I could never figure out why he could just beat me up without it didn't feel like he was trying hard. And I would just walk away just like, and I would spar with other guys that were like 200 pounds. And I'm like, Crazy Dave, we called him Crazy Israeli Dave because that's what he was. He could hit harder than some of these 200-pound guys because he understood what he was good at. He understood how the nuances of boxing, and he would try to pass it off onto you. But and you could take what you can from it. It's that Bruce Lee thing where you take what you need and throw away the rest. And we all try to do that with Crazy Dave, because then he'd start talking about politics and then you just didn't want to listen to him anymore. But like, as far as boxing went,
well, it wasn't his gift. Talking about not his gift. You gotta stay in your lane, dude.
So your app, it's beyond just the daily deuce. It focuses on like actionable steps, so after you're done with a daily deuce, which I love that you named it, because most guys listen to it while they're taking a deuce, which is what I do every day.
That was the point of it. Yeah. Anson, who is our co-founder and PhD in neuroscience, and he named it that. And I'm always a little reluctant to the potty humor, but he's like, no, the idea is that guys listen to it instead of doom scrolling during your daily deuce.
Yes.
Train your mind during the daily deuce. So that's the idea behind it.
Absolutely. And then afterwards, after the daily deuce, you have the daily do, which could also be used as a poop joke if you truly wanted to push it. Also a poop joke, pushing the daily do. So tell me what the daily do is. Like, explain to the people who are watching or listening what the daily do is.
So it's one thing to listen to something that's going to help your mind, right? It's important to be mindful of what goes into our ears. It's another thing to integrate it into your daily life. Okay, so daily do is about integration of the deuce. We take it a step further. It's like reading 100 books. If somebody tells me they read 100 books, I'm like, okay, like what have you learned from all 100? And more importantly, how have you integrated those learnings into your daily life, right? We get fixated on this, like, oh, like these numbers of like, let me just read this many things or watch this many things or listen to this many things. And it's like, well, we need integration, right? So the daily do is an AI journaling prompt that's connected to the deuce. You listen to the deuce, you get a question, right? That's connected to the deuce, that theme or that topic that I talked about in the deuce. And then you just write about it, and you reflect on it, and it's specific, and then the AI will respond back with an action for you to take that day and to accomplish before the day's over. So like I said, like, what's your day's micro purpose?
Right. Oh, you're talking about my day today?
Well, if you did the deuce and do, yeah, maybe.
Sure.
No, but I meant it more rhetorically, right? Like, that the deuce and the do will help give you like a purpose for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, and it's funny because like there are some days where I can, because it is AI and we work with the limitations that AI gives us. It's not perfect. I use AI in a lot of different things in my life. And I think knowing how to use it to your advantage is what helps. I think my wife is also a teacher, and a lot of what they talk about is, AI. It's here, kids are using it to write papers and stuff, but and they're not supposed to, obviously, because we don't want a generation of doctors who have copied and pasted their dissertations. Dude, it's scary.
I remember back in the day when I had to pay someone to write my paper.
Absolutely.
Now kids are doing it on AI.
I know. What happened to Ramesh? She used to write all my papers. But like, and the thing is about it is like, AI is a very useful tool. It's also a very dangerous and stupid tool sometimes. But that's everything. A hammer is a really useful tool, but can also be dangerous and stupid if the wrong person is using it.
Technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think using it like this, where it's kind of like you're in charge. And when I say you, I mean like your app is in charge and you're guiding AI what to do. It's, sometimes you get these workout apps that are completely AI and you 100% realize it because they're having you do like these things that are like, don't make sense, but the AI thinks it makes sense. And I think having it, guide your day is a totally fine way of using AI. And my biggest worry is that AI is going to take away like the creative from people and make people think they're creative when they're not. And I love that the app isn't like, it's not like an AI generated daily deuce. It's you write it. It's something that is obviously written with love, with passion, and with care. So like, and you can always tell when something is AI.
100%.
Yeah.
Like you've listened to a bunch now, Ari, like,
yes,
none of those fuckers are written through ChatGPT. And people ask me that all the time. They're like, why don't you just use because I tell people that how much time like I'll spend on some, and some come to me like very quickly and I do it in one take. Others like I labor overdue. Like I'll take a week on writing one because I'm trying to get it right. And they're like, just use AI. And I'm like,
you're just
AI, here's the thing
Uh,
about AI, because you mentioned AI and
sure.
creativity. AI is a great tool to be an assistant for you. AI will never replace creative works because AI has not lived it.
Absolutely.
AI has not experienced what I've experienced that I put in the words in the deuce. And like,
Agreed.
so I don't care if it can write a good deuce now or one day.
Mhm.
That's not there's no life in it for me. You know,
Right,
it
right.
has to have life and experience.
No, absolutely, and I use it to do busy work. I mean, it saves me a lot
Mhm.
of busy work time. If I have to write a
100%.
lesson plan for my school, and I'm just like, well, here's the game I'm playing, but it's not in the correct format for whatever the school district needs. Pop it into AI, give it the format, and boom, it's already done. And so, like having it be the boss, bad idea. Having it be your assistant, good idea, I think.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like, it's very like you can always tell. Like I said, you can always tell when something's AI, whether it be pictures, audios, voices are the worst. If you ask me, like when you can tell like a YouTube channel that's like a faceless YouTube channel, you can always
Yeah.
tell what it's an AI thing. And I just
Automation was in like YouTube automation. How people are trying to just make money by just doing a bunch of
yeah.
AI videos or something.
And I
Yeah.
mean that's what Reddit is turning into. There are just algorithms that people program into Reddit that
Mm.
can like read it gives you like a score based on like oh god, I was just talking about this with my friend yesterday about like it'll give you a score based on how much like emotion and thought was put onto it and how so and it's scary what it's doing. So I think like the fact that you can put comedy into it, and I know that for you comedy is like a critical outlet,
Mm.
and like how has it helped you process personal challenges, and like what role does it play in your approach to mental health, because this is a mental health app.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. No, I appreciate you asking that, man. It's
Yeah,
like I try to do with the deuces, I will try to be very tight and concise
sure.
without dragging this fucker on. But if I think about just, when I was a kid, I would by normal public school standards, I was a terrible student, you
Okay,
know. I couldn't sit still, severe ADHD. It wasn't diagnosed at the time. I wasn't diagnosed until I was like into adulthood.
agreed, same.
But I couldn't sit still, and like, and this goes to the broader picture of like how schools are designed a little, especially in younger ages for girls as opposed to boys. Boys like
They
are
are, you don't have to
rambunctious.
say they're a little bit, they're designed for girls. It was designed for girls, like it was, and that's okay.
And well, look, and someone who has dedicated his profession to being in the education system, you're probably more aware of this, right?
My
But
wife as well, yeah.
and look, we can get into the whole science of this. Richard Reeves, by the way, wrote a book called Of Boys and Men. Anyone who's
Mhm,
tuning into this, Ari, if you haven't had a chance to read it, I really
mhm.
highly suggest everybody reading it. He's done extensive research here, particularly around the education system and how boys, their prefrontal cortex develops a little bit later than
Right.
girls.
Oh,
And
of
what does
course.
that do? It are you prone or not
What
to
doesn't it do?
risk? Are you
Yeah.
prone or not to making
Yeah,
decisions that are
right.
going to pay off for you in the long term, or is it more about instincts and living more in the moment? So
Mhm.
that was me, right? I was a boy and I was like rambunctious and I couldn't sit still, and like my teachers fucking hated me for it. So I was constantly disciplined, and but one of the things I was disciplined for was being a class clown, because I really wanted to make people laugh, because I was at home. My home life sucked. It was riddled just with a lot of violence and anger and rage. And so part of me, for the attention that I needed, was to be at school and just try to make kids laugh, and that was it. That
Sure.
was just what I needed. That was my outlet. So humor was really a big part of my life. It was a survival mechanism for me, Ari, when I was a kid. Okay.
Same.
And
You're
then
talking about
you
me right now too, so
right. So
continue.
you understand,
I
dude, right?
do.
And
I
and
do.
but a lot of times, dude, especially adults or teachers, and I don't know how much it's changed now, but at our
Yeah, I'll
time,
tell
probably
you. I'll
growing up,
tell you.
and being in school when we were kids, it was stop, no, sit down, sit still, do your work, be quiet.
Mm.
Not like, oh shit, this kid might actually have something here that we might want to try to cultivate. What is he trying to tell us
Right.
with his behavior? Now, that's a
Mhm.
lot more difficult to do. And for the most part, like again, I went to inner city public schools. Those teachers were just trying to survive. They didn't get
Gross.
paid well. Like they had a bunch of shit that they had to deal with. So that was how comedy kind of started for me, right? When I was a
Right.
kid. Um, and then, it kind of evolved into just, me kind of always trying to crack jokes and make people laugh. And it wasn't
Sure.
until I got back from serving in the Peace Corps.
Mhm. Thank you for
This
your
was in
service.
Thank you, man. This
Yeah,
was and I know you're a veteran too, right?
I
So
am.
thank you,
Yeah.
brother.
I picked up a lot of
Um,
cigarette butts in those parking lots. Thank you very much.
so
I'm
I
allowed
got
to say
back.
that because I am a veteran. So
I got back for the piece. I was in Eastern Europe, and when I got back, Ari, I was working this job at a management consulting firm in San
okay,
Francisco. I was up in this high rise. It was a great view. Anything probably a lot of people would fucking kill for.
right,
And I'm
sure.
sitting there after 3.5 years of living in Eastern Europe and thinking about the lack of opportunity
Mm,
for young people
sure,
to go and be a comedian
right.
in Eastern Europe. The lack of opportunity for to go and be a filmmaker, to go and
Yeah,
be a writer, to go and pursue these creative things, right?
we got Yakov Smirnoff, and he fucked it up for everybody. So that's it. That's all that came out of Eastern Europe for as far as comedy goes.
That's it, dude. That's it. And then it was such strong communist dictatorship for a long time. It kind of
Sure,
removed all of that. It
sure.
removed that creativity and those opportunities. So here I was in a cubicle in San Francisco cropping screenshots for some user manual for a piece of software that no one was going to fucking read ever.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there thinking, these kids don't have this opportunity.
Right.
And here I am, what, 5.5 hours away from Hollywood, where we have all the opportunity in the world in
Mm,
America to pursue whatever we want to do creatively. And
mm,
here I was squandering that shit.
mm.
So shortly after that, I left that job because they asked me to, and I decided to pursue. I was already doing stand up at night. Like I was working fucking 10-hour days with things that I just hated. Then I would go and do these like brutal, terrible open mics where like the only person that showed up was like a drunk guy who just stumbled
Oh,
downstairs looking for the bathroom. But
uh,
dude, I loved it though.
oh,
Because I had an outlet because I was able to get up on stage and I had a mic and I would use that drunk guy stumbling to the
yeah.
bathroom to try to
I
make a
don't
joke,
know. I don't
right?
know the opposite of this. I don't know what it is, but
It cut
that's what
my
we do
teeth,
at
brother.
school.
That's how I cut my teeth, man. It
Oh
was
God,
hard, but look, I was working
the
that day
worst
job and I was
nightmare.
like, but the day job was my worst nightmare,
No, yeah,
you
no, I
know?
totally get that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's
So
funny because
so
like that happens though. It's like some people's dreams are other people's worst nightmares. Like
yeah.
sometimes because I'm a gym teacher, I'm not like a subject matter teacher. I don't have all the brains and stuff. Like gym was my class that I loved in school, and my wife one day was like, "You should be a teacher," and I'm like, "Well, I can't teach anything. Like I don't know how to teach
Mm,
anything, but I know sports, I know exercise, and all that stuff." And sometimes when the subject matter teachers come down in the middle of my class and they're like, what is happening? Like it's
mm,
chaos, but I organize this chaos and I know how to manage this chaos. And they're like, they'll walk in with their fingers in their ears and it's crazy, but that's my dream job. I've had
yeah,
5 other careers, but from before this, and that's my dream job. Weird as it is,
yeah.
but I
I
totally get that.
And here's the thing, dude. I love talking about all these fucking topics with you. So what
Yeah.
I need to do is try to find a stay on topic and actually answer your question, which I
Yeah.
think was,
Yeah.
the comedy and mental health and
Yeah. How
using
does it
those
help you
things, right? So
process this kind of, yeah.
comedy, as we know, or I think a lot of people know, comes from pain.
Yeah.
A lot of
Of
comedians,
course.
which is why, dude, sadly, we've seen a lot of comedians, particularly stand-up comedians,
Mm.
die way too young,
Oh yeah.
die
Mitch
either by
Hedberg was one of the
suicide.
best,
Yep.
you know?
Die by overdose, and part of that is because we're looking for a high and getting a laugh is a high. It's an amazing hit of natural dopamine, but
Mm.
a lot of stand-ups, and I've experienced this early too in my career as a performer, is like you're always trying to chase that high. So what
Right.
happens after you have a great show and you kill? There's a come down.
Sure.
And it's like, am I comfortable? Can I sit with that come down? No, I need to go find something else and chase that, drugs, alcohol, whatever, attention, validation, whatever it
Sure.
is.
Sure.
But it was all coming, dude, from this source of pain and trauma, and
Mm.
and
Yeah.
things related to my mental health and things in my background. So it wasn't until I started to process that and then use, can we use comedy? Because what do they always say? Oh, comedy is the best medicine, right?
Mm.
Humor is some of the best medicine.
Mm.
So, when I met Anson and Tyler, who are our co-founders,
Mm.
two of the guys who came over from the Calm app, brilliant guys, two of the smartest and best guys that I've ever had the chance to work with. They met me and they said, look, we need to do mental health for men because Calm is not reaching men. It's a great app. It's a great tool and resource, but we're not reaching men.
Right.
So they wanted to create mental, and they said, we know that in order to reach men, we have to use elements of storytelling and humor and entertainment. And
Mhm.
I said, well, look no further, fella, you found him, so,
Yeah.
so, I loved that was their insight. And then it became, because the whole premise, and we all really agreed on this, is mental health, Ari, mental health support, mental health tools, mental health resources do not need to be dark, sad, dreary,
Oh,
depressing. Like I would see these BetterHelp ads and it would always be like this
God.
guy pleading with the other guy, like, please, I know you're hurting. I know your
Right.
life is terrible. And it's like,
That's not the reality for everybody. That's how not how we all
yeah,
interpret trauma or anything. Like I could write a book about my trauma and I never am just like, oh dear me. That's not how I process it though.
yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't always need to be now. Sometimes, look, don't get me wrong. Sometimes mental health support does need to be reactive. We are
Right.
in a dire state. We call it kind of three zones that we're playing in. There's
Mm-hmm.
like, that like almost like the emergency zone where you have like severe depression,
Sure.
almost like medication, hospitalization, things that like you need in like immediate help and support for, right? We call it
Mm-hmm.
like the danger zone.
Right.
Then we have this zone that I call okay. This is where the majority of men play Ari, right? When it comes to their mental health, which is like, yo, Ari, how you doing, dude? And you go,
Yep.
yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
all right. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, you're just okay though?
Yeah.
Like, why
Causes the
aren't,
head tilt like, yeah. Yeah.
but why aren't you? And I'm just
Yeah.
using you as an
Sure.
example.
Yeah, of
Why
course.
aren't you in what we call the third zone, which is like excelling, thriving, like
Right.
purposeful, meaningful, like you are loving every day of your life? So, how do we get men to go from that okay zone, not fall in the danger zone, but get them in that thriving, excelling zone? And it's okay to fall back into like the okay. Not every day is going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh
But
yeah.
how do we get men skewing more towards that excelling, thriving zone versus falling into the danger zone and
Mm-hmm.
just always living in the okay zone? Right? Does that make
Right.
sense with those? So
Yeah,
how we're
no, I
breaking down
mean,
those three
okay
zones?
is fine, yeah. You
And
know?
and if we can be the resource too to get men out of the danger zone and be in the okay zone, dude, that is a leveling up, right?
And
Our
but the way your app works though, it's like I feel like, yeah, it can get you in the okay zone, but if you really take it serious and you really and this is what I think a lot of people struggle with is like it's the I went to the gym for 15 minutes. I sat on my phone and I kind of pedaled my legs on the supine bike and I can post that I went to the gym, but I'm not getting the results because I'm not actually putting in the work because no one's really holding me accountable besides myself.
mm,
This isn't me. I When I go to the gym, I'm just like, I got 35 minutes. I'm gonna kill everything here. But
mm,
there's a lot of people who don't look at the gym like that's my therapy. Is if I go to the gym, I'm just like, what can I cram into this workout in 35 minutes? Because I go on
mm,
my lunch break every day. I don't have time to go any other time. So I have to make the most of what I do, but not everyone thinks the way I do.
mm,
And I feel like if more people could like follow a plan, there's like a lot of people don't like to admit that they need help with things.
mm,
And I was like that for a very long time. I was just like, I got this under control. I know how to do everything. And then suddenly I'm like,
mm,
wait, why am I sad all the time? I don't have this under control, and it's like a frog boiling in water where suddenly, you're 20 years old and everything's going your way. And you're like, or it's not depending on the person. But as far as me goes, like, I was young. I was in the army. I did a lot of
mm,
stuff in the army, but then after I got out of the army, I had like no one to tell me what to do. And I'm like, well, I'm not running in the
mm.
morning. That's
You
stupid,
right, you're
you know?
missing that routine, that
Mm-hmm.
that accountability, that
Right.
camaraderie, that yeah, like that accountability piece of like, "Oh,
Right.
shit, other people are doing this, like, I'm gonna do it too," or someone's
Yeah.
telling me to do or whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's that accountability factor that gets lost.
And sometimes people just need like somebody to tell them to do something, somebody they trust.
Mm,
Like I don't know how much like meditation you actually do or like practice in stoicism, but a lot of things is we have a role model that we use in our mind to kind of help us guide like who do you want to be more like? Obviously you want to be more
mm,
like yourself, but you should have some kind of role model in your head. And I've done a lot of like stoic meditations where you're picturing your role model, how that person would live your life. Like my
mm,
role model until a couple of hey Jaime, how's it going? The My role model until a couple of maybe like last month was The Rock. The Rock has always been like my like if I could change with anybody, it would be The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I've
mm,
always just worshiped that guy. I met him when I was in
mm,
high school. It was just like I grew up as a wrestling fan, so already I was, this is my internal monologue is The Rock. And like I love his charisma, I love the way he carries himself. He's always positive. I'm sure there's some shady shit going on in the back, but that's with everybody. So like that was my internal monologue. And if The Rock comes out and says something, I was just always like, yeah, I'll do that. Like I'll do whatever The Rock's telling me. But until about a month ago, where I had this kind of come to I don't want to say come to Jesus thing because I'm not a Christian, but like I come to whatever, like a realization. Yeah, there you go. That
epiphany.
Oh, Jaime Cruz says he loves the mental app. That's awesome. Thank you, Jaime. I don't know if you know, or if I'm saying it wrong, it might be Jamie, but it looks like my uncle Jaime, so I'm gonna say Jaime. But yeah, it's not my uncle Jaime, but
I would love it if Jaime. Oh, you're right, because it is Jaime. Yeah. Jaime / Jamie. Let us know if it's a soft J or a hard. All right. Also, I would love it to know. It'd be funny if he's just saying I love the mental app and he's not even a user yet.
Also, Jaime, tell me what a soft J is and what a hard J is. But until a month ago, my internal monologue is now David Goggins because I read his 2 books, and I know you have kind of like a, I know your feelings about David Goggins. He can be a little.
We say never go full Goggins. That's what we say.
Nobody should except Goggins, for him. No, never go. I totally agree with that. But I love his life. I think his life is crazy. I read both of his books, or listened to him like audiobooks rather. And he's now my internal monologue because he's like the guy that's telling me like, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm doing 4,000 push-ups. What can you do? And it's probably, I'm sure there's it's probably not the super healthiest thing to do, but if it keeps me motivated, and I will never go full Goggins. I have no time to go full Goggins. Like I know everyone has time to do things, and I know that's like never an excuse. But what I was getting at with this was, I noticed you have Deontay Wilder as your push-up thing. That actually was like kind of my like, oh, I like Deontay Wilder. I don't like him as much as Tyson Fury, but I like Deontay Wilder. And you have, tell me the Navy SEAL guy for the cold shower.
Stephen Drum.
And those like having names attached to that kind of makes people go, oh, Deontay Wilder. And the things with Deontay Wilder are incredible. Like that's comedy gold. He is hilarious. I love that he's awesome. When in the Rocky movies, when the Rocky's trying to make money and he's like doing the ads and he's like, you want to smell like a jungle rat. And like, he's trying to and like Deontay is so like great for it. And I've heard other boxers try to like do ads and they just sound completely stupid. Mostly UFC fighters always sound really stupid, but he's amazing. Like he's so comfortable. How do you get that? Like, how do you get Deontay Wilder to be like, yeah, I'll do that?
I remember the first time meeting Deontay and sitting down, and I'll tell you what, dude, I was intimidated, man. I was intimidated. I seeing, if you just like look up Deontay Wilder knockouts on YouTube, you'll see why I was fucking intimidated.
Seriously, he's huge.
But also, and it wasn't because he was a boxer, because I had heard so many interviews with him, and Deontay and I, so I heard a lot of interviews with him, and the reason we approached him was because he had always been pretty outspoken about mental health, particularly men's mental health.
Right.
And it was something he would speak about. It was something he would always be. He's sort of this perfect balance at mental of what we call kind of the third way approach, which is a lot of men, and I think society in general tells men, just share your feelings, be vulnerable, and do that all the time. Right.
Right. Yeah.
The other side will say, no, just be tough. Don't talk about any of that shit. Figure it out yourself, Don't be weak.
Right.
Deontay is a perfect blend of the toughness. I mean, as you can see, you YouTube some of his stuff, the toughness, the masculinity mixed with the vulnerability. I'm not afraid to talk about what's going on with me. I'm not afraid to talk about my previous history with mental health issues. I'm going to talk about it and we just have a conversation about it and normalize it. He doesn't, after a fight, after he fought Helenius, I think he knocked him out in the first round. After the fight, he got very emotional talking about another boxer. His name is Pritchard Cologne, who
Mhm.
became paralyzed for the rest of his life because he was hit in the back of his head a few
I
times
remember
during the
that.
fight.
Yep, I saw the
Not a fight
video
with
for that.
Deontay, not a
No,
fight
yeah,
with him. It
yeah,
was something else.
they were lighter weight guys. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was horrible, you know, and
Mhm.
Deontay got very emotional about that because somebody asked him about, you know, getting injured in the ring, and he got very emotional. You know when he got emotional, Ari?
Mm.
During the press conference,
Yeah.
not in the ring.
No.
So one of the things that we preach to men is around emotional regulation, where it's
Sure.
okay to show certain emotions.
Of
Drum would talk
course.
about this too. Now, if one of my guys is killed on the battlefield, I need to take the next right action, which is to continue to protect myself and the rest of my guys. Now, after that battle is over, you better believe tears are going to be shed for having lost a,
Oh, of
a
course.
comrade on the battlefield, right? So
Yeah.
it's knowing when to do these things and not being so rigid with our masculinity where we always got to be tough
Mhm.
or where we always have to open up and be vulnerable. You
Right.
know what the word vulnerable came from, Ari?
Tell
It
me.
back during hunter gatherer days, you know
Mhm.
what it meant to be vulnerable?
Mm.
Walking outside of your cave and knowing that anything could kill you at any point, but you had to go find food to survive.
This is
That's
like
what
Philadelphia every
vulnerability
day, I'm
meant.
just telling you right now. It's it's a
That's
poppy
what
store, and it's like
vulnerability meant.
yeah,
So how
absolutely.
so men
Yeah.
have been conditioned for so many years to not be vulnerable
Right.
because it can physically harm us. So now when the conversation is just, "Oh, just be vulnerable." It's like you just want to flip a switch and like just every man is just now openly talking about their feelings. No, we have to meet men where they're at. So
Right.
back to your question about Deontay. Deontay was really perfect at that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know I'm like, you asked me a question about Deontay, and I'm like, let me tell you about the
Let's
history of mankind.
caveman. Let's talk about cavemen. No, I totally I mean, but that's I mean, what's what we're here to do is talk.
And
Um,
then what
yeah,
real
yeah, go
quick,
ahead.
Tari, one of the things that Deontay very quick, you know, what one you probably are very good at this and know how to do this. It's anytime you're meeting someone like that or having something maybe you're feeling a little bit anxious about before meeting someone. I don't care whether it's, you know, meeting a guy like Deontay for like a business partnership or meeting going on a first date, right?
Right.
One of the great things that you could do as a tool is like finding a common denominator.
Of course.
What's something that we have in common that can ground us both in, that we can kind of start the conversation off and both sort of feel engaged in?
Sure.
And you know, I don't share this on the app, but I'll share it with you. Is one of the things that Deontay and I bonded over very, very quickly, and formed a very strong friendship since that time. Is both of our experiences doing ayahuasca,
Okay. It's
and for
doing
both of
say
us,
it one more time. It's doing
ayahuasca.
what if someone doesn't know what that is? Somebody who's listening might not know what that is. Could you explain it to that person? I 100% know what it is, but explain it to them, please.
Yeah, ayahuasca is a, and I want to add a disclaimer here.
Okay.
Okay, ayahuasca is a plant based healing medicine.
Okay.
Um, it and a strong psychedelic
Okay.
medicine, and
Fair.
it should be only used under the right supervision, the right guidance, with the right people, with the proper
You can just
intentions.
say
Okay,
you could just say peyote. It's fine.
it's well, I mean that's a different thing, but
I'm just
you
joking.
know, it's a very very stronger type of like psychedelic mushroom. Okay,
Okay. Okay. Fair. Fair.
now the way both Deontay and I did it was legal. Again,
Mm,
there are legal and illegal ways
sure.
to do things,
I
but I just want to be
accidentally
very
fell
clear
down
that
and this mushroom accidentally got in my mouth. Totally legal. It's fine. You don't have to
now
tell me. I'm not a cop.
we we can do we could do a whole nother live dude on this on like medicine, mental health, plant-based medicine, and all that stuff. What I can tell you that for both Deontay and I, it was transformational in our lives, and
Sure.
it was something that we sat down with and talked about and bonded over. But you know, again, not something that has anything to do with our app. By the way, that's not an
Right.
endorsement to do. I just
Sure.
want to be very. This is why I'm
Kids
reluctant to
don't
talk
do
about it.
drugs. Yeah.
I'm very. I want to caution everyone. Like,
Yeah.
if you're having any type of mental health thing that has been going on with you for a while, just saying, "Oh, I'm going to go do ayahuasca." That'll be the answer. That's not it. That's not it. Okay. So
Start with black tar heroin and then move to ayahuasca.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
And
yeah.
then yeah, start with the fentanyl, move your way down. Okay. Uh Seriously, don't do that.
So you and
Um
Deontay were doing a lot of drugs, and then what happened? Sorry, I just had to
if that would be
synopsize that.
if like the New York Times picks like listens to this, that would
Twitter.
be
It
the
was the
one thing
tweet
they
of what you just said.
that's what they would pick up on and take that and just
Yeah.
not the Times, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably like a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
publication. So,
Sure.
and so we use, you know, Deontay was great for us because he meets that sort of perfect sort of meet men where they're at, that perfect
Mm,
balance of toughness and like I'm okay talking about my shit and you
yeah.
can be okay talking about it too. It's not a big
Of
deal, right?
course.
So you know, we love Deontay for that. And him and I we had a call yesterday and what I love with him is that I'll pitch him ideas too for things. I'm like, oh dude, it'd be great. I'm thinking about this idea for you to do, and you post it on your IG, and it's related to our push-up protocol, but it's not like an ad. It's you just having
Mhm.
fun. And he'll sit there for a second, and I go, "Ah, shit, you hate it." And you go, "No, I actually love it." He's like, "Let's do it." I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah, dude!" So being able to create with him, or you've
Sure.
heard the Frozen song,
I've done
you've
it
heard
all.
him
I
like
did the
him,
entire program.
him and I
Yeah.
doing a riff back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
dude, he was so down and open. And like, here's the thing about Deontay, he trusted me so much through the creative
Yeah.
process. He didn't change a single word of what we
Okay.
did, of what we
Oh,
could. Because
cool.
I would like write the scripts, you know,
Yeah.
and we would go and we would record them together. Not a single thing, dude. He was
Uh,
so game, he was so open, and he was just what an amazing partner to
right.
work with on this. Both from the creative side, like creating it together on that side, and also the messages that he sends out to other men out there.
And I know that like Deontay Wilder, like I've followed his career for quite a while. I've been watching him fight for a long time. And also one of the most impressive things, and this is probably not very impressive for him, but for me, where I got a lot of respect out of him was the whole incident with Charlie Z. Now, do you know about that with Deontay Wilder and Charlie Z?
Oh, this hack little
Yeah,
like
okay, yeah, he
guy who
harassed
tried
he was a troll, you know, and he's like and when he did that to Deontay Wilder, there's like this 3-hour video that kind of puts it all together, and I watched the whole thing on an airplane once. It was wild. And I think the fact
you watched it in 0.75 speed. Most people will speed it up. You watched it slower. You're like, I want to take my time with
I
this
want
shit.
to see, but you know, the thing I respected out of him is like, had it been me, like, how you know, because I know his daughter has spina bifida, and like this internet troll Charlie Z was like harassing him and saying he could beat him in a fight, and just all this nonsense. This is little skinny little,
He called him up, called him the N-word, like all this
yeah, and
sexual
like
shit,
was
dude.
threatening his daughter, and like had that been me,
Mm,
that man, if you want to call him that, would have never A, left the gym alive, and B,
mm,
I'd be in jail. And like the
mm,
fact that he has that mental toughness enough to not do something, that's what
mm,
I respect. Because like my wife and I were talking the other day, because I've been doing the cold plunges every day, and I get stupid with things. Like if I'm doing something, I get real stupid with it. And I think that's why my wife and I balance each other out, is because she has a way to temper me down in a way that makes sense. So like when I get into something, I get into it like too much. So cold plunge for me has been awesome. The weather in Philly has taken a turn for the much worse. So like my cold plunge every morning is 32 degrees. I don't have a chiller or anything like that. But I'm like, I could do another minute. I could do one more.
mm,
And
mm.
my body's not ready for that. My brain is so ready, but my body is just like, no, this is dangerous for you. So like I would do 3 minutes. I was like, that was kind of easy. And then I do 4 or 5. And the other day I did 7, and I like couldn't get warm for the rest of the night. And she's like, without calling me a complete moron, she was just like, what if the real challenge was you getting out at 3 minutes because you want to
Mm,
stay in for 8, 9, 10 minutes because Wim Hofs can, and you want to be able to also. Like, what
mm.
if the real challenge was you getting out when you didn't want to? And I'm like, is
Yeah,
this
the
who
real
I was
challenge is
marrying?
saying right, the real challenge is resisting your own sort of temptation and
Yeah.
desire and ego. Let's call it ego, right?
It
Because it's
is
something we
ego.
all
It's
struggle with as men,
100% that. Yeah.
and just saying, "This is enough,"
Yeah.
and being content with that,
Yeah, and
which
I
is a
think
struggle
that
for us, right?
that's where, like, and I respect people who can do that. Like,
Mm,
you know, we all have these kind of like, I don't know, these fantasies in our head where people break into our house and we get to be the one that saves the day and stuff. But nobody knows what's really going to happen unless you've ever actually done that. Like,
right.
I can tell you from like fighting, doing MMA and being in so many fights in my life that like nobody really knows how to fight. Like, especially people who
Mm,
aren't trained. When we'd have guys
mm,
come into the gym, are like, I want to fight someone. They'd be like, okay, let's fight. And they don't know how to fight. They might think they do. They might be able to fight guys at their high school, but they don't
mm.
know how to fight, and they would get beat down hard.
All right. Not what you're saying now, not to just bring it back and be like, let's
Sure.
make this a full ad about mental app. But what you're saying is describing the cold shower protocol and why
Yeah.
we did it the way we do it.
Right.
It's about it's about teaching men how to perform
Hmm.
in the moment of stress,
Absolutely.
right?
Sure.
So you talk about like, oh yeah, like somebody coming into your house and thinking about, yeah, oh yeah, I would handle it.
Yeah.
Now, Navy SEALs don't leave that up to chance.
No,
What
they
they
don't.
do is train themselves. So when it
Sure.
does happen, if now not someone getting breaking into the house, but being on the battlefield, because when it
Sure.
does happen inevitably on the battlefield, they're already able to handle it because they've
Hmm.
trained under similar stress.
And they've
So
made tons of mistakes in the past too. You know.
100%, right? So the reason why we teach men breath work to
Right.
handle stress in the cold water is because cold water has the same physiological stress response as you would being out in public and getting into an argument with a guy, right? Same
Hmm.
stress response, right? Our
Hmm.
body views it as being stressed. So, if we can train ourselves to control our stress when we're under stress already, that is what we want to be doing
Oh
because
yeah.
then we're more prepared for it when our body reacts to it in the everyday world. So we call it
100%.
we're the only health app, dude, that wants to stress you more
Yeah.
because being in the
Absolutely.
cold water is deliberate stress and what we call like good stress.
Right.
So it helps you. So you train yourself with those tools under deliberate stress and good stress. So you're able to bring down the bad stress and distress when you
Uh-huh.
engage
The,
in
the the bad stress is less stressful because you're like, oh, I've done this before. I'm gonna
you
I'm gonna
have the
take it.
resilience.
I'm gonna take a moment to braggadocious myself a little bit. Okay, so I'm also on top of just being gym teacher, and I'm a girls volleyball coach. I coach middle grades girls volleyball, and our team is the best in Philadelphia. Like we go under.
Mm,
This is my second season. I've gone undefeated. We just finished the season this week, 13-0, and we beat some serious competition, and we beat a lot of people that get very upset with me because their schools have a lot of money and mine
mm.
doesn't. And but
You
the thing
recruit well,
is
dude. You recruit
so
fucking
here's
out
the
kids out
thing.
of preschool.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I coach well, and I know I'm a good
Mm,
coach, and
mm,
I do a lot of things that you are talking about right now with my girls. So I have girls that are
mm,
10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tops. They're all on the same team.
mm,
And I they get stressed out because volleyball is a very quiet sport. It's like golf. You know, when someone's serving, everyone's quiet and everyone's staring at you. And that for a teenage girl is super stressful. For me, I don't care. I'm just like, yeah, look at me. But like for and boys in general are usually like, oh, this is fine. Come on, take a look. But girls I notice get super stressed out by this. And I have to find ways to make the stress of a game serve the same in practice as we do in a game. So what I end
yeah,
up doing is and I make them cry a lot. They end up crying in practice a lot, and their parents are always just like, "Oh, thank you, appreciate that," because you're building toughness in our girls, which don't get
mm,
toughness really built into them either. So when we're doing practice, it'll be like game point, and we're just doing like scrimmages in practice. It'll be game point, and I'll say, "Okay, if you don't make this ball over, the entire team except you is running 20 laps," and they're like, "Oh." Because the practice is super comfortable. There's nobody watching. It's all their friends. They're all used to each other. And suddenly that comfort is gone because they know if they don't make it over, everyone's doing and I hold them to it. I'm just
mm,
like, no, 20. And they learn from that. And it's about taking something that is usually comfortable for them
mm,
and turning it stressful as hell because it's gonna be stressful as hell when they're actually playing. And then they're
mhm,
like, "Oh, I can do this." And it's something that I think a lot of people, men too, but like I think it goes across the board. Like if more people were willing to stress themselves out, like in a controlled environment,
yeah,
it could those skills translate over
right.
into, after the game this week where the coach was screaming, "You have bad energy" in my face, and I'm just talking to him because it was a whole thing. Because I beat him really bad. It's something that I was able to deal with because I can breathe through these things. And sometimes when I'm coaching and it's super stressful, I'll see the girls staring at me. I'm just like, Like when there's like a really heavy, like a really
Yeah.
important serve coming, and it's because I have the tools from your app, from a few other apps as well, that can help me walk my way through the something that I hate competition. I stopped fighting because I get too nervous with competition, but like I can coach and I know how to get them ready. So I'm just happy I don't have to do it. I'm too old to be doing competition. So that's nice. But yeah, that's just me bragging and agreeing with you that it is important to like stress yourself out and give yourself a toolkit to help you in real world situations.
I mean, the tricky part, dude, is not a lot of people want to stress themselves out.
Everyone says stress is bad. You got to eliminate stress. No one have stress. It's bad for you, but it's not. I mean, every time you go to the gym, you're stressing your body out, and every time it's stress is there. It's going to be there whether you want it to be or not. Unless you just live under a rock, but then even still, like that's stressful too. People get all sorts of mental issues from not talking to people or being too scared to talk to people. And, it's like, stress is part of our day. We're humans. It's 2024. No matter what the year is, we're going to be stressed out. Like, and I that's what I think I love about this app is that it gives men particularly, a toolkit, and it gives you like, and the other thing I want to talk about is, speaking of that, is like the AI therapy. Now, you've recently launched the AI therapy sessions, and I know it was something else, but maybe tell me and tell other people. I've used it a couple times. I think I've done like 3 sessions with it. I love it. Can you tell people what it is and like, just here, I'll just leave it at that. I don't know how to finish that sentence. So
yeah, tell me what it is. Yeah, period. Go. Yeah, I think first and foremost, right? When people think AI therapy, I think sometimes just hearing AI, they associate it with ChatGPT. So this is not ChatGPT, because our AI therapy has been built, designed, engineered by a PhD in neuroscience and a PhD in counseling psychology, who is also one of the world's leading experts in men's mental health, right? His name is Dr. Matt Engler Carlson. He's out of Cal State Fullerton. These two guys are behind this feature. So it's not just pulling a language model of Claude or ChatGPT and like typing something in as if you go to ChatGPT. Our AI therapy has CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy interventions.
Okay.
That is how it is built. So if you were to go and sit down and speak with one of the world's premier CBT, therapists, that's what it would be, right? Those types of interventions.
Right.
Now, the differences between our AI therapy and human therapy is I can't, and you're also talking to someone who has seen different therapists throughout my life for many years, right? So I can't at 3 a.m. have a crisis that I need help with and call up my human therapist and say, "Hey, I need to talk about this."
Like, what about Bob?
So
you ever seen What About
our
Bob?
AI therapy is.
Have you never seen What About Bob?
Oh shit, dude! Am I freezing up? Am I free? Maybe I'm freezing up on. Well, we froze up a little bit. I got you back. Okay. It's probably on my end.
I was gonna say, have you ever seen What About Bob?
Yeah. What about Bob? Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's funny. I saw it when I was a kid, and I saw it again recently. I'm like, Bill Murray is just in it.
Yeah.
So it's the accessibility, available 24/7. That's what differentiates us. Another thing is, I had a therapist recently who canceled on me a bunch of times, last minute, didn't show, poor, not terribly organized. And I'm thinking like, how is this helpful to me? So our AI therapist will never cancel on you. It won't take 6 months to schedule an appointment. So these are things that very much work in the favor of AI therapy, right? You can do, I think we just rolled out, you could do like an 8-minute session, you could do a 15-minute session, you could do a 30-minute session, right? You could schedule sessions in advance to kind of keep you organized, keep you accountable. So all of these and the cost as of right now, dude, is included in the annual membership, which is like still around like $60.
Yeah.
So average cost of human therapy, dude, without insurance is around $200 an hour. So we make it more accessible, make it available 24/7. We make it incredibly affordable. Like most men, I mean, like if you don't have healthcare, you're screwed. Even if you do have healthcare, a lot of health insurances do not.
I had healthcare. I mean, I have healthcare, and mine is $120 a session to do it. So you
Yeah,
know?
so it's insane, you know?
Yep.
Another thing is, you know, we built our therapist to really resonate more with men because um not just beyond the fact that like 6 in 10 therapists are not even accepting new patients, the majority of therapists are female. So it's
Right.
incredibly hard to find a male therapist. It is even more difficult to find, if you're a man of color, a black therapist, and less than 0.5% of therapists are Latino men.
Mm,
So it's incredibly hard to find somebody that you resonate with and connect with.
right.
So we built that with that in mind with our AI therapists. So that's a little bit about the feature. Just in the first week upon releasing it, the reviews have been stellar. Like a
Right.
lot of men are really enjoying it because again, you could use it at any time. It resonates with like, you know, more male specific issues. Um, and the sessions are a lot shorter. So you don't have to spend, you know, a ton of your day going through a session and there's memory to it, dude.
Can
So a
you
lot of time,
oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, the last thing I'll say is what I love about it is, and I've had this issue with human therapists, is where I'll show up the next week and I just, what do you want to talk about? And like, remember that thing I
You
mentioned to you
tell
last
me.
week that is like plaguing my life?
Yeah.
Like, do you not remember anything that we talked about? And then the timer hit and you said, "Oh, time's up." How about we revisit that thing? And how do you not remember it? Versus our memory and the AI therapist will remember what you come in with so there's continuity
Right.
between sessions. You can chip away at something, you know,
Sure.
as you go. Now, what I hope men realize is that because Ari, like you said, a lot of the rest of our app is action oriented. Here are the tools. Go use these tools. Here's how to
Right.
solve this. Where the AI therapy, it, it just like real therapy, will take a little bit of time,
Right.
you know, to
Yeah.
to to kind of establish that rapport, to chip away at something that might be bigger that's affecting your life. So the therapist will probably give you a tool or something to work on, but it's that trusting, it's trusting the process and
Mhm.
consistently chipping away at something, just like real human therapy is, right?
Right. Now, speaking of, like you mentioned, it has a memory. Now, I'm gonna hit you with a dark side of it that hopefully you can speak to.
Mm.
Is what about people who might be weary of telling their darkest secrets to your app? Like,
Mm.
what kind of when you speak of memory,
Privacy.
what
You're talking
yeah,
about like
yeah,
privacy.
privacy concerns. I have a lot of issues with that in AI in general, but like what kind of like reassurances could you give to someone who might be thinking that, well, I'm not telling them all my deepest, darkest secrets, you know?
For sure. On the, let's call it the externally facing side, meaning I'm in my app, I go to open my AI therapy. There's a pin code.
Mhm.
Also with the previous sessions, because you have a chance to kind of go back to and see like what was that intervention that the therapist said that time, or what was that thing that we talked about. So if you want to go
Right.
back and look at your previous sessions, you can also with a pin code. So like if you know, look, this is not unrealistic. If someone is in there talking about an issue between their wife and their girlfriend and they want it to be anonymous and they don't want
Right.
someone to go through their phone, we keep that level of security. Now,
Right.
on the back end, we have like the highest bank grade level of encrypted security. So there also really is not a way, Ari, for me to go into the app and be like, what was Ari's conversation that he had? And so it's
Right.
like anonymous in that end.
Sure.
Now, what we do is just in order to make the AI better and to make sure that it's responding in the proper ways, we will anonymously sometimes look at some conversations to say,
Right.
oh, okay, the AI didn't really respond the way we wanted it to here. Let's
Right.
go back and maybe look at what the issue might be and how we can better engineer that on our end, right?
Right.
So, but in terms of, you know, the data being anonymous and encrypted and private, I mean, absolutely. That's what we
Like
know that
you can't have a list of users and go, Ari, mental therapy session number 1. Let's go look and see what all of his,
absolutely not, dude.
just all of his
Yeah.
terrible secrets. So yeah,
That no,
and
that's
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 fair.
not how we built it, you know,
Yeah,
because
and I
again,
and I
like
think
that
that's a
and
serious question that a lot of people would have. So I appreciate you speaking
for
to
sure.
that.
Yeah, like the trust is important, dude. Just like establishing trust with the real human therapist is important.
Sure.
You know, establishing the trust with us and our app and who we
Right.
are and what we stand for and our AI therapist is equally as important.
Of
You know, so
course.
making sure that it is private because, you know, not all men, but you know, some of the men who are reluctant to go to therapy is because they don't want to share these details with another person because they don't trust that person or they
Right.
don't trust the
I
process.
saw the
You know,
Menendez brothers TV show. I don't trust therapists after that. Come on.
I don't know the story, but I'm gonna assume everything you just said makes sense and is
It
funny.
does. Just agree with it, and I'll just cut out the other part when on the back end. So yeah.
So AI therapy does help in that regard where it's like you don't have to if you feel like you can't be vulnerable enough to share it with another human, like like you could talk it out with our AI therapist, you know,
Mhm.
knowing that, but also knowing that it is a safe and private place to do it.
That's fair, and that's good. And then so we've talked the Daily Deuce, the Daily Do, the push up protocol with Deontay Wilder. We talked we touched on the cold shower thing, but I want to come back to that a little bit. And then we talked the AI therapy. But what we didn't talk about is actually one of my favorite features, which is
Mm.
basically you've taken Blinkist and put it in your app, which is amazing because I had Blinkist before, and I'm
You
like, well,
love those
I
audiobooks, dude.
I don't need that. I don't need Blinkist anymore. I'm like, get that subscription off. It's like, so I love audio. I'm an audiobook junkie. If you guys don't know right now, Audible is having like this insane sale where the books are like $3 a piece, and it's insane. Like
Mm.
the good
Mm.
books you're getting from it. Now your app has AI read audiobooks, synopsis. Oh, here we go. There are
Book summaries. Yeah, it's like the
book
key takeaways.
summaries.
The
Yeah,
key
the key
takeaways
takeaways from
from
a
those
book,
books.
and I've put away so many of them, and actually ended up buying a lot of them either
Mm.
in real print or on Audible or whatever. And I really love that about it. And like I think that my biggest issue with it is sometimes the AI voice can be a little wonky. It's, it's, I'm guessing it's the
Yeah.
11 Labs model that kind of reads through it. And sometimes it'll put the emphasis on the wrong word.
Yep.
And I mean,
Yep.
but that's where AI is right now. It's not like, it's not saying that every other app is great and yours is like, well, I'm paying for the cheap version. No, it's just that's
Mm.
what it is right now. And
Yeah.
if it's a trade-off. Now, I love the book summaries. Where is that like where did that come from? Because I never thought of that as like a mental health thing, but in reality, it is.
As we were building out our AI therapy, and we had this other mental AI coach at the time, and as as we were leveraging technology,
Mhm.
we were thinking, because we are an incredibly small team, Ari. Like, it is 3 of us plus a contractor.
I think
That's
I've
it.
talked to all of you too, actually. I
That's
feel
it,
like I
dude.
have.
It's so we are, humble flex. Like, the what you see in the app is pretty much unbelievable and unheard of for a team this small to build something like that.
Sure.
And I and we are incredibly proud of it.
Should be.
But as we started leveraging more AI and technology, we thought, well, how can we use a Silicon Valley term? And I'm not sure if it even makes sense here. How can we 10x our content in speed
Yep.
in creating even more value for our users
Sure.
with more content? So, as you know, the Deuce is something that I told you I spend a lot of time on. Like, I research it, I write it, I record it, I edit it, all of that shit. Now, if I were to do that for audiobooks, how long do you think that would take us? It'd take a long fucking
Oh
time.
my God.
So,
Yeah.
by leveraging AI with again, spending a lot of time on our prompt engineering to make sure that the AI pulls the best possible takeaways and things that you, Ari, can use and listen to and then integrate into your life, right?
Right.
So engineering
Or
that.
even want to learn more about, like, I think that's
Yeah.
what I get more
Yeah.
out of it. It's like I'm like, oh, I really enjoyed Atomic Habits, and apparently everybody in the world has read it except for me, so I ended up going out and buying it and reading it. So
Yeah.
because of your app, it wasn't like, because I'm not a guy that just knows things. I'm like, my wife always just like, yo, I know who that is. I'm like, what? How do you
Yeah.
know? Like, I don't
Just
get
gathering
into
knowledge, just learning
yeah,
shit.
I'm just not
Yeah.
on the
Like, I
internet
mean,
enough, I guess.
what, like some of the ads that Headway is the other one that does like book summaries. Some of the ads
Mhm.
that they run towards men is like, become the most fascinating or interesting man in the room, and it's because
Right.
you're learning all these things. So yeah, we decided, like, Headway does, I don't know, $80 a year. I know you said Audible has their thing, but like book summaries like Blinkist and
Oh
Headway,
yeah.
I think they're like $80-$90 a year. And we're like, well, why don't we
Yeah.
just do what they're doing, but just roll it into our app and not charge more? Like,
Seriously.
we could do the same shit.
Yeah.
So now on the other side of that, Ari, right? Like, inside baseball is Headway and Blinkist. They're one thing. They're
Right.
audiobook summaries.
Right.
We are a number of different things to help men with tools and train their mind. And, we call Mental like your mind's personal trainer. So for us, it's like, we now need to promote and market push-ups. We need to promote and market book summaries. We need to promote and do all of these things to make sure that guys are coming to the app and being able to understand and leverage all of this content versus them coming to the app wanting to do cold showers. And then they see audiobooks and like, oh, I'm not really going to use this. Why would I pay for this?
Right.
App?
Right.
Versus
But I mean,
Headway can get somebody to pay $90 a year for things that we have in our app that are, you know what I mean? So So from a business standpoint, it can be challenging, but
Sure.
what our main thing with that was like, how do we leverage technology to get guys a lot more content that could still be helpful to them?
Absolutely, and I think and it turned out to be one of my favorite features. That's how I start my day. It's like daily do's, daily do, and then somewhere when I make everybody's lunch for the day. So like when I'm making my son and my wife's and my lunch, I'm listening to the book summary, and then I'm like, oh, cool, that was really
Mm,
good. Or sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't really care about like having a millionaire mindset. Like that's not a thing that's appealing to me, but I listen to it anyway because like I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, and I always try to take what I can from something even if I'm not using the whole thing. And that was what one of his
mm,
big philosophy is like take what you can and throw away the rest. And sometimes I'll get something, and sometimes I'm like, okay, well, it filled 8 minutes of my time, and now I wasn't just sitting there
mm,
making a turkey and cheese sandwich, super boring. Um,
yeah,
and I love that your app is like it looks at the whole person. It's like I don't think there's a stone unturned as far as like or left unturned with as far as men's mental health goes. And I love that
mm,
it's targeted. It seems so harsh, but like geared towards men. I love that because like we a lot of times we're especially in today's world I feel like men sometimes we don't really get to be a thing anymore. It's like I understand we've had a history of being the thing
mm,
a long time, but it can affect someone's mental health. Like I wasn't conquering, I wasn't conquering, you know,
mm,
I was not one of those people. I still feel like I, can deserve some recognition and to feel like someone sometimes. And I think that's okay for men
mm.
to do. And I know, and I think sometimes, and I've told people about your app, and I don't have the elevator pitch and the W Riz that you have, as the kids would say. And sometimes when I say,
I don't even. I'm clearly
"Oh
not a
my
kid because
god,
I don't even know what that means. But I hope
W,"
it gets a compliment.
you have W Riz. You are not L Rizzy. So so what happens when you teach. What
Again, I
happens when
don't.
you have 20 middle school girls in a room
You
every
learn all
single
this.
morning? Oh my
Yeah,
god, do I ever?
that's
So
funny.
when I'm describing it to people, a lot of people equate it to like this kind of like alpha male movement that a lot of
Mhm.
people see on
Yeah,
YouTube, and it's like the
I get it.
75 hard guy, and the like, and yeah, well, I'm
Yep,
not a fan of that, and some people like the 75 hard. I'm like, do they have
yep.
75 like medium rare? Maybe I could do that, maybe,
Yeah,
but
what we well, yeah, what did I call it in our Discord? Like 70, 75, kinda hardish.
yeah, I was like 75 medium rare is what I'm gonna go with. 75, 70 degrees, 70 degrees hard.
Well, dude,
Um,
what you're describing though is a cultural thing that we have talked about and struggled with quite a bit, Ari,
right.
because in the world, in society, culturally, we
Mm,
see 2 things. We
yeah.
see the Calm app and we see Andrew Tate. And
Oh
it's like
god.
you have to choose one, and we're like, "What? Choose?" Like, we're
There's
not
somewhere in the
either.
middle. Yeah, yeah,
We're not
yeah.
either, dude. You know what I
No.
mean? We're all of these things that I described earlier of like meeting men where they're at, and
Yeah.
and and can we just provide a resource, dude? At the time, we had a USA Today article come out about us about it maybe over a year ago or a year and a
Mhm.
half ago,
Okay.
and it talked about how there are close to 20,000, okay, mental health and health apps that are out there.
Sheesh.
Probably more now because this is about a year and a half
I feel
ago.
like I've used most of them too.
You have all of them.
I have it.
Then you know this, that not a single one, when we released Mental, not a single one catered towards men.
Wow.
The majority of them, even if they say they don't cater towards women or females, you can tell by their messaging, by
Mm.
their colors, by
Yeah,
their
the layout.
emojis,
Yeah,
by their
of course.
mascots, by the layout, by their tone, their terminology, their phrasing,
Yeah.
and the numbers are there, right? Calm, I think we're 80 to 85% were like middle-aged white women. Okay. So
Yeah.
they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Not a single one catered towards men, dude. And why did we build something specifically for men? Men make up 50% of the population, but make up nearly 80% of all suicides.
Yeah,
Men
that's
are
the scary
20
shit.
times men are 20 times more likely to die at work, 15 more times to be incarcerated, four times more likely to be murdered, 3 times more likely to be homeless, 3 times more likely to die over drug overdose. Men lead in the 5 leading causes of death. They lead in 13 of the 15 leading causes of death, and they die 5 years younger than women.
And you know
That's
what?
why we created
Another
an app
thing
for men.
you can look at is just look at school shooter statistics or like mass shooter statistics. You're not going to find a lot of women in there. It's sad. It's really sad.
This is why we created something for
Yeah.
men, and like
And it's
society
great.
doesn't really want to have that conversation, but men are falling behind in education. They're falling behind in the workforce. Fatherhood is not like where it should be because so this is why we've created
Mhm.
something specifically for men.
and it's good, and it's a very, I commend you for putting so much obvious love and care into a product like this, because you could take the easy way out. You could just AI it and just be like, here's a picture of an AI dude with his shirt off who has like accidentally four nipples, and there's a lot of apps that are out there like that that don't have the love,
Do we
or
have an
it's
AI guy with four do we have an AI
I
guy
don't know.
for
If you
nipples?
don't, you
Probably
should.
somewhere. I was gonna say
Maybe it could
probably
be one.
somewhere. If not, that's a short sight of us if we don't have one.
No, I agree. I think the more nipples, the better, if you ask me. But like, sometimes, like when I was first discovering mental, and I'm gonna wrap us up here in a second. I tried a lot. I did metal, which confused me. Which I was like mental. I was, but that's the
The
Bear
the
Grylls
app
app.
that yeah, the app that
Yeah.
copied us for everything.
Was it
By the
really?
way,
Did they come out?
imitation is the sincerest form of flat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's but
I
look, I hope
tried
they
it.
do
It
well,
wasn't
and I
my
hope they
thing.
help a lot of men.
Yeah, because and what I noticed about it is like, yeah, it says it was towards men, but they were still not willing to jump in and go, this is actually for men. This is like, no
Huh.
matter if you're a man
They
or a
wanna do
woman,
it
you could
safe.
be, yeah, and like that's the safe route. And I think a lot of times,
They
you
want
go to
they wanna be on the Today Show, we're built for Rogan. That's what they want.
yeah,
They wanna be on the Today
exactly.
Show, we're building for Rogan. That's it.
And I think that's great. And I think if the more men that can check out the mental app are going to benefit from it. And I can't thank you enough for coming on to my little tiny channel, and just chatting with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
And
dude. Thanks for having me.
I wish you the best, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, brother. Love you,
All right,
man.
take
Love,
care.
love everybody else out there.
Yep, take care, sir. All right. That was Jason Kyle, the CEO of the Mental app. If you haven't already, go to getmental.com and check it out. I have an affiliate link. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm not gonna use my affiliate link. I believe in this program. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to get like a $3 kickback for anything. I just want to see more men feel healthy, if like themselves more, take themselves serious in a way that makes sense for them and the world. And I really hope that if there are men watching it right now, you give the free trial a shot and see what kind of good it can do for you. My name is Ari Fit Pro VR. Don't forget to get your workout, both mental, physical, emotional, etc. in today. See you guys.